than Derek Carr?
Well, he's been better. He's taken a team to a Super Bowl. He's won a championship game. The other guys never won a playoff game. I believe Jimmy G at his best is better than Derek Carr at his best. Skip, we talked about it. I remember Derek Carr came out here after that Friday, after lighting up the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, that might have been one of his best games ever. The next week, he goes out against the Rams. He throws for 137, no touchdowns with 2 picks. And so while you keep talking, people might say, well, Jimmy G's been inconsistent. So has Derek Carr. And for whatever reason, he was never really embraced. He was never embraced by John Gruden. At least Josh McDaniels came in and they gave him an extension, and it just didn't never materialize for there. Nope. So I do believe that Jimmy G will be better in this situation. He has familiarity with this system. He was in the system for 3 years. He won a Super Bowl with Josh McDaniels. He wasn't the skip. He was not, the lead dog. Obviously, that was Tom Brady. But he played well in Brady's absence. And so for me, and the Raiders needed a veteran quarterback, and they're built to win right now. They need to do something to shore up that defense, because I think the defense is what let them down, considering they had a lot of leads in ball game and gave those leads up. Remember, they had the big lead against Kansas City, gave that up. A lead against the Chargers, gave that up. They had a lot of leads, ended up giving those leads up. But I do believe in this situation, Skip, looking at it, I think Jimmy G will be better for the Raiders than what Derek Carr was with the Raiders. And so by that, I know lateral move, but I think he's slightly better because his best is better than Derek Carr's best.
By the way, spit up a big lead against Baker Mayfield, too.
Oh, see, I forgot it.
Don't forget about it.
If you lose to Baker Mayfield, you got to go.
Got to go. All right. It's another tough one for me because I have a whole lot of friends who are Raiders fans.
Right.
I covered the Raiders for a while. I liked the Raiders. I loved Al Davis. I just loved him. I know he had some scoundrel in him like Belichick, but he just had charisma. He had legend to him. And I still cling to that legend of the father, Al Davis. Not so much the current Raiders. Okay, I'm going to give you this, and I'm going to give my friends, the Raiders fans, this. Yeah, Jimmy G is a little better than Derek Carr, especially with Josh McDaniels, because they sort of grew up together.
Familiarity.
Yeah, they know each other, and they'll click together. And it always felt like Derek Carr was kind of chafing at the bit, and I don't do it that way. Yeah, but we do it this way. And then there was all this back and forth, and his big brother got involved about is Josh McDaniels, how many plays is he changing at the line of scrimmage? Does he give the quarterback enough leeway to call his own game, depending on how the defense sets? Blah, blah, blah. They're going back and forth. It never seemed like a good fit.
Right.
Okay, now, before I go deeper into this, I got to give you my big picture here. This is my God's truth on these two quarterbacks. In the end, you can only go so far with a Derek Carr and so far with a Jimmy G, where I get it that Kyle Shanahan and your coach Mike Shanahan, they got Jimmy G almost to the finish line. They got him to the fourth quarter. Yeah. They're up 20-10 over Patrick Mahomes and company in the fourth quarter of that Super Bowl. And in that fourth quarter, Jimmy G goes 3 of 11 for 36 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick, and missed Emmanuel Sanders on a big throw at the end of the game that could have changed our conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And from that moment on, it sure looked to me like Kyle was trying to get rid of Jimmy G.
Yeah.
And Jimmy G was sort of getting rid of himself because he just kept on getting hurt.
Right.
I'm going to give you this. Derek Carr is much more durable than Jimmy G. So your problem with Jimmy G is you're on borrowed time right now. The clock's already ticking because what does history tell you? He's going to get nicked and knacked and hurt. And it just happened again and again. I got a whole litany of injuries that he has gone through.
But Skip, I look at Derek Carr. He's that worker, Skip, that he doesn't do a great job, but he never misses a day of work.
Okay, I got it. And you're right. That's what I'm trying to say here. You step back from this and you say, Derek Carr is pretty good.
Right.
Well, that's the good news, and the bad news is he's pretty good. Jimmy G is even a little better, but that's the good news and the bad news, because I almost want to tell you that I trust Derek Carr in the clutch more than I do Jimmy G, but I don't have enough evidence because there's not enough clutch opportunity here because I got him 0-1, and I think he said 0-2. I got
0-1. Derek Carr.
Yeah,
he lost to Cincinnati.
And I got 4-2 for Jimmy G. You said 5-2. Maybe I'm shortening my win, but Jimmy G has 4 touchdowns to 6 interceptions in the postseason, playing for really good teams.
Right.
But I've seen him have flashes of brilliance, of greatness.
Right.
And then what happened right on time not this past year, but the year before, they got all the way to the NFC Championship game. Unfortunately, it was at SoFi against the Rams, their division rivals. And guess what Jimmy G did in the fourth quarter of that game? He went 3 for 9 for a grand total of 30 yards with no touchdowns and a pick. And they lost the fourth quarter to the Rams on their way to winning the championship. They lost 13-0 to the Rams in the fourth quarter.
But Skip, he was a dropped interception away from going back to the Super Bowl.
Okay, that was Matt Stafford's throw that was dropped by Tart. Okay.
But that was Jimmy G. That was the quarterback on the other side.
I got it.
And the guy would have 2 Super Bowl appearances on his resume.
But you realize that the Shanahans, early on, they gave him a big deal. At one point, they made Jimmy Garoppolo, the highest paid quarterback in the whole land.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, it seemed like just a year later, they're doing their damnedest to get out from under it, right? They're trying to trade him. They're trying to get rid. They're trying to do this. They're trying to do that. And last year, they sort of fell back into him because Trey Lance got hurt. After they'd given the sun and the moon to go get Trey Lance.
Right.
Then Jimmy G falls back into the starting role, and he played pretty well. Right. And I got nothing to boast about because the last 2 years, the first year, Jimmy G eliminated my Dallas Cowboys in a game at Jerry World, and he was pretty good in that game. And then last year, it was the young quarterback who did it. So San Francisco's gotten me twice. We're going to talk about what they did yesterday as opposed to what my team did not do in the NFC. Balance of power continues to change in favor of the 49ers. But I don't think they're going to miss Jimmy G, which brings me to the Raiders. Can you go win a Super Bowl with Jimmy G? Maybe. It's a little bit of a long shot.
But the pieces around him are going to have to be so outstanding, both offensively and defensively. Skip, he's not a Magic Johnson or a Steph Curry type point guard. If you have great players, if you have a historic power forward center, things like that around him, yes, he can be a point guard to get you 6, 7, 8 assists a game. But he's not going to be the guy that take the game over. So that's what Jimmy G is. And if you understand that, you look at what the 49ers had. You have a Kittle and you have all those pieces around him. And you run the air out of the football, Jimmy G is perfect. But if you say, Jimmy G, we can't run it today, you need to throw us to a victory, Jimmy G looking on the side, let me see if I can find you a quarterback that can do that.
That is correct. That is exactly what I believe. With either Derek Carr or Jimmy G, the Saints and the Raiders, to me, are just treading water. It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It's comme ci, comme ça. It's not bad, not bad. That's the best I can say. Not bad, not bad. Maybe a little better here because of the fit, but I don't rule out Derek Carr in a quarterback-starved NFC South. Could he? They brought Jameis back to be his backup now. Well, could he win the South? Well, sure he could. The point is, I don't love either one of them. And, that's what you have to, this situation teaches you once again about this league. There are only a handful of quarterbacks that you can really count on to say, I can actually go win the championship with that guy. Obviously, you start right now with Patrick Mahomes because he's done it twice now. You can go win the Super Bowl with him. You got a legit shot with him because he can rise above whatever pieces you put around him. I still give it up to Patrick Mahomes. He lost Tyreek, fastest receiver in football, and they pulled it off. I thought they got a break on a call, but you need some breaks along the way. And Jalen Hurts played great in that game, but he came up a little bit short because he fumbled.
But Skip, if you go back to when you first started covering the game of football, there have always only been a handful of quarterbacks that you can just say, oh, he can go win a Super Bowl. Or he can go. You go back to the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. There have only been a handful.
It's always that way.
You people try to make it seem like, oh, no, you can't.
Okay, unless You go to the Ravens, and there's Ray Lewis and company, and you say, it doesn't matter. We got Banks, we got Trent Dilfer. It just doesn't matter because you're going to ride your defense.
But I don't know if they don't let you play defense like that in today's game.
Today, you couldn't do it. I don't think so. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, you got to have something historic. You have to have a historic defense. You have to have a historic something. If your quarterback is marginal, like you believe these guys are, you don't believe these guys are top 10 quarterbacks.
No.
Okay, so they're not.
They're just not. But they're not bad. And I get it. In a quarterback, it's still quarterback starved. The landscape is littered with skeletons of quarterbacks from teams that said, I'm going to try him. And they fail miserably. And they struck out. Every year in the draft, we see it. Maybe he'll hit with one, but there are going to be two or three that are just swings and misses. And teams will just spin their wheels with them for a while. Spin, spin, spin. And finally say, we got to start over.
You go back and look at, let's just take the Rams that won the Super Bowl the previous year before the Chiefs did it. You say, well, Shannon, they didn't have anything historic. They did. They had a historic receiver.
They did. Never seen like it.
Look
he set every record.
Okay, your Cowboys, you don't believe Dak is top 10. Well, you better have something historic. Your running back runs for 2,100 yards. Your defense gives up 10 points per game. What do you have historic? Your defense was good, but they couldn't overcome the in-depth play of their quarterback. So when you have that position.
Yeah, and by the way, what did I tell you going into last year? I said my team will go as far as my defense carries it. In this day and age, in 2023, that's not the magic formula. No. So it'll go just this far. So it got me to San Francisco in a playoff game, and guess what? My defense rose and shone.
They gave up 19.
19 points. Well, it's beautiful. That's the formula to win. Except my quarterback missed
scored 12.
5 throws, and we scored 12. We scored 12. And the year before, I wasn't so sure my defense could carry, but I thought my team was pretty good. And we get a home playoff game because we actually won the division. And we come out and lay a huge egg right from the start. It is a cracked egg because we're just not ready to play. I don't know what happened, and my quarterback was pretty awful in that game. Well, in the end, this whole thing is a quarterback's game. Okay, so these teams both took shots, or the teams that drafted these two quarterbacks. Remember, they both went in the second round of the, 2014 draft. They went in the second round. Derek Carr was the 36th overall pick, so he was shortly into the second round. And near the end of the second round went Jimmy G with the 62nd overall pick, but both second-round picks. It's pretty high to take a quarterback, but it's not a top. Nobody's saying, that guy you could go win the Super Bowl with. You're saying we hope we hope we get a shot. We hope this clicks for us. Every once in a while, it doesn't happen very often. There's a 6th-round pick who becomes the GOAT. Every once in a while, there's a 3rd-round pick who was the GOAT before the GOAT. Okay, because
but most of the time, Skip, these guys they're first rounders. I mean, you look at the Elways and the Aikmans and the Bradshaws and Marinos, the Kellys, they're first-round picks.
They're all first-round picks because that's the way you do it, and you have to hit on the first-round pick. And yet, with Jimmy G, I look at the numbers he put up in San Francisco. They're actually sensational.
They are.
He threw for 13,599 yards with 82 touchdowns to 42 interceptions. Well, if I told you that, you'd say those are Pro Bowl caliber numbers. Those are potential Hall of Fame kind of numbers. He completed 68% of his passes. Did that have something to do with the system he was in?
Yes, absolutely.
Sure it did. But as a starter for the 49ers, including the playoffs, he went 42-19. I'm like,
that's really good.
Okay, that works. Guess how many Pro Bowls he made over that stretch? Zero. He made 0 Pro Bowls. Guess how many Pro Bowls Derek Carr made for the whatever they are, Raiders? They're bouncing around.
At least 4 or 5.
He made 4 Pro Bowls. Okay, so you say, does that mean Derek Carr's better than Jimmy G? I don't think so. I'm going to give you the nod. I'll give you a slight nod for Jimmy G.
Well, we saw what happened, Skip. I mean, guys don't even go to the Pro Bowl anymore, so now they take it. Huntley from the Ravens went to the Pro Bowl.
He did.
What am I supposed to do?
No, I know there's a lot of default picks where you just get to go.
Skip, Carr just went this past year.
Because somebody else.
Mahomes, Herbert, Burrow, Josh Allen. I mean, so you the 17th alternate and you go to the Pro Bowl, but it's on your resume.
Okay, but Jimmy G was never even the alternate.
Nah.
So, and I have called him Jimmy Gag before because He's got flair. He's got talent. He can get on a roll. And then he's got that one sort of haywire gene in his head where when you least need him to, when you least expect it, he just unravels right before your very eyes. And you say, well, where did that come from? I don't know. It's just he's this good. He's not that good.
No.
Right?
I agree. But Skip, I mean, he was playing really good before he got hurt. He was 7-3, over 2,400 yards, 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 61% completion percentage. Derek Carr was 6-9, 3,500 yards, 24 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 61% completion percentage.
Okay.
That's
2016, Jimmy Garoppolo, AC sprain in his shoulder. 2018, he tears his ACL. 2020, he's got a high ankle sprain that he suffers twice, and it finally knocks him completely out. 2021, he had a calf early in the year that knocked him out, which led to a hand fracture at the end of the year and a torn ligament in his throwing thumb. He tried to play through that for a while, needed surgery. Then this past season, he had a bad shoulder sprain. It's actually the end of the year before, which led last year to his foot fracture. I'm just telling you, he's pretty brittle.
Oh, he made a paper mache now.
Yep. Okay.
There's no denying that.
So the Raiders say, okay, we got Josh. Josh knows him. Let's go get Jimmy G, and let's go win what? Do you really think you're going to win the Super Bowl? Well, I'm looking at the numbers that you gave him, and they're all over the map. Everybody's reporting different numbers here, so I'm not sure what to take to the bank.
But it's not as much as Derek Carr got, though, is it?
It's not as much as Derek Carr. It's actually bargain basement for a quarterback.
Yeah.
It's going to... I'm guessing on this, it's about $34 million guaranteed, and it's somewhere around 23 a year.
Yeah, some incentives probably skip. You win the division, or you win a playoff game, you get to the Super Bowl, you throw for this many yards and this many touchdowns if you make the Pro Bowl. I'm sure there are some incentives that could push it higher.
They were able to get him fairly cheaply.
Right.
And you think of... We're about to talk about Aaron Rodgers. He is scheduled to make $60 million. $60 million. We're talking about $23 million here.
Right.
34 is guaranteed. Deshaun got $230 guaranteed million. So this is almost like a yard sale. You just stopped, you went around the block and you said, oh, they're selling off some stuff.
Right.
Let's stop. I love that couch. We could sit on that couch. We could watch a bunch of TV on that couch, right? Well, let's get it because they're selling it for $12.
Right. But here's the thing, Skip. Do I sit around and wait and see what Aaron, what do you think about Las Vegas? I mean, I got your guy over here, Devontae. We got Josh Jacobs, who's under a franchise tag. We can run the football. He led the league in rushing. Do I wait, and then somebody snatch up Jimmy G, then Aaron decides to go somewhere else, and now what do I do? So, I mean, the Raiders really didn't have a choice, Skip.
No, it's like, the old game musical chairs, because the music's about to stop, and the Jets are in danger of the music stopping, and they're saying, we got Zach Wilson.
Yes.
That Mike White signed
with the Dolphins.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's what's happening right here. There aren't enough to go around.
Yeah.
And the kids who are going to get drafted, I know one of the kids, the one from Alabama, I love him, but I can't tell you for 1,000% sure that he's going to be a superstar.
And neither is the team that's going to draft him can tell you that.
No, you just don't know. So in the end, I hope the Raiders do well with Jimmy G. They probably have a slightly better chance. But with Derek Carr, for all the good that he did, he actually was pretty clutch. He had a bunch of clutch late moments.
Right.
For all that he did, to your point, your original point, he played one playoff game in all those years for wherever the Raiders were based.
Right.
For the Raiders, he played one playoff game and lost.
Lost it.
Okay. Well, that's who he is at this point.
But Skip, in that division, obviously Mahomes is top. I think everybody else is going to say Justin Herbert is the second best quarterback. Not Jimmy G. Is he in Russ? I mean, is he better than Russ? I don't know. We see what the Broncos are doing as far as they got a guard, they got a tackle. Yeah. They're trying to shore up, make sure Russ, they're going to be able to run the football. So is Jimmy G. So how do you expect to win in that division?
Then they went and got Jared Stidham, and I thought, well, does he want some quarterback competition just to push Russ a little bit? I don't know.
Must be.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good luck to all these teams with these quarterbacks.
I think it's very possible Jimmy G is just a bridge quarterback for the Raiders for a little bit until they find their next QB of the future. We will find out, guys. Thanks for watching, Undisputed fans. Subscribe here to get the very latest from Skip and Shannon. Plus, go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.